In many plants I've walked in, there's a form like this. At the end of the shift, an operator selects the order, they enter the produced quantity and scrap, then save. It's clean and fast. It does the job. And when you ask what system that is, the answer comes without hesitation. That's our MES. But is it? It's a fair question because nobody owns the word. MES started as a market label, credited to analysts at AMR Research in the early 90s, not to a standards body. No standard defines the minimum a product must do before putting those three letters on the box. We need our own test. We'll build it from the four maps this industry actually uses. HR. The letters alone describe nothing. The meaning comes from what the department does. It runs payroll and manages employment, from hiring through contracts. Take those functions away and HR is just two letters on a door. MES has the same problem, with one extra complication. Nobody ever agreed on the list. ISA 95 maps manufacturing operations management at level 3, but it doesn't define MES products. Other guidance includes educational MESA models and Gartner's market definition. None of the main references decides what qualifies. Even MESA never demanded all of its own list. In plain words, a system counts as an MES when it covers the functional groups, or a reasonable combination of them. A reasonable combination. That's one of the closest things to a rule this industry ever got. The label is open. The test we're building comes from the list behind it. MESA's mid-90s list named 11 core MES functions, operations and detailed scheduling, resource use and status, dispatching production units, document control and others. An example, product tracking and genealogy records what went into what. It has its own box, so MESA already treated it as a full function in the 90s. Our quantity form lights up one box, data collection. It's a good form doing one of 11 jobs. ISA 95 Part 3 is useful for a different reason. It separates MOM from MES. Published in 2005, it maps the Level 3 manufacturing operations work between the ERP and machine control. Four domains sit inside that scope: production, quality, maintenance, and inventory. Together, they form MOM, manufacturing operations management. MES executes the production domain. Each domain follows the same 8-activity loop. Define and manage resources, schedule and dispatch, execute and collect, track and analyze. In the production column, tracking carries the genealogy record under a quieter name. Read this as a scope map. It shows where production execution sits inside level 3 and which neighboring domains remain separate. Product certification is outside its purpose. The same pattern appears in two more sources. Germany wrote a national MES guideline, VDI 5600. GFOS dates it to 2007, and the current edition from 2016 lists 10 task areas. They range from order management and detailed planning to data capture and energy. Gartner compressed the whole category into 3 sentences. 3 parts of that definition matter here. MES coordinates with production scheduling. Note the verb coordinates. Genealogy applies where required, and the MES integrates with process history, which remains in the history store. Those 3 points come back later. These maps aren't independent. VDI built on the earlier work. What we see is one industry settling on one shape over 30 years. Quality appears in only some of the four lists. Gartner doesn't name it, and ISA 95 puts it in a separate domain. Maintenance drops out too. We'll return to scheduling later. Four functions remain. Dispatch runs a released order on a real line. Collection records quantities and materials. Tracking builds the genealogy. Analysis compares the result with the plan. For this run, it calculates OEE and feeds that result into the next dispatch. Draw them in a circle, and the reason becomes clear. They close a loop. Dispatch starts the work. Collection captures what happened. Tracking keeps the record, and analysis improves the next dispatch. That loop is my working definition of an MES. I derived it from the shared part of the four maps. Its edges remain soft. Gartner says genealogy applies where required. VDI carries tracking through material management and data capture without naming it. Now, remove one function, no dispatch means monitoring that can't act. No collection means the MES has no execution record. That record must live elsewhere or on paper. No tracking means no recall answer. No analysis means no performance feedback. Each result has another name. It isn't an MES. Our form sits on the collect arc, partially. Produced quantity and scrap go in. Material consumption has nowhere to land. One arc of 4, and only part of that arc lights up. The frameworks include more than 4 functions, and that's not a contradiction. In-process quality checks and labor tracking belong inside MES. Electronic work instructions and resource status do too. Extra functions are fine when ownership stays clear. The frameworks also show 5 boundaries. Scheduling comes first. Every framework names it, yet Gartner says MES coordinates with scheduling, and the market has a separate category, APS, or Advanced Planning and Scheduling. MES handles the sequence after work is released, leaving the wider optimization problem to APS. Next is the ERP. Level 3 executes in minutes to days. Level 4, the ERP, owns business planning and the longer time horizon. That's the mainline ISA 95 draws. A system that owns the financial numbers has crossed the standard's primary interface, whatever its badge says. The historian comes next. Gartner says the MES integrates with process history. It uses context from the raw time series store and leaves the storage to the historian. Then there's control. Fast control loops live below level 3 in the controllers and operate from milliseconds to seconds. MES works over minutes to days. I wouldn't put a machine stop loop through that slower layer. Quality and maintenance are neighboring domains. Inventory is another. Each has its own ISA 95 area and system of record. And MES exchanges information with these systems. It doesn't become the quality system, maintenance system, or warehouse. You can see the ownership line in our little form. The order list the operator picks from arrives from somewhere else. In our 4-question test, it comes from the ERP. A received list leaves the dispatch arc dark because no work was released to the line. None of this stops the functions from sharing one product. Buying APS and quality from the same product family as the MES on one data model can be a good choice. The line we drew is an architecture line. It doesn't tell you how many products to buy. Keep the architecture clear. Know which system owns each function. Sharing a product doesn't change that ownership. Real-time control stays separate. Fast loops belong in the controllers below level 3. The speed of the control logic creates that boundary. The quantity form is a useful point tool. Nothing about the form is bad. Someone built it for a reason, and the plant may depend on it. It performs one function out of 4, and strictly speaking, only part of that one. That has a name, and the name isn't failure. Point tool. Take a standalone OEE dashboard or machine monitor that only collects and analyzes. It can do those jobs very well. When dispatch and lot tracing are absent, its category is monitoring tool. It can still be useful. The badge can also hide a platform. The pitch is you can build anything you want on it. That may be completely true. You can build an MES or a dashboard for the coffee corner. The platform doesn't care. That's why the box isn't an MES yet. A base platform ships with no work order model and no built-in genealogy record. Those exist only after your team builds them. Your team must decide whether that flexibility justifies the work. On day 1, it has no specific system identity. What you own is a platform, and your team is the integrator. A platform becomes a system on the day someone builds the 4 functions. Use these 4 questions in any demo. First, dispatch an ERP order to a line and close it back without custom code. Second, show where produced quantity and material consumption land, in the real data model, not on a slide. Third, take a lot from this demo and show where it went. Fourth, show the runes OEE without a custom report. Our form gives 3 failures and 1 half answer. It stores produced quantity, but not consumption. It still lights only part of the collection arc and remains a useful point tool. Nobody owns those 3 letters. Whatever the brochure says, the 4 answers tell you whether the assembled result is an MES. Any incomplete loop fails that test. Point tools and platforms are two common incomplete cases, not a complete list. One or two limited functions place a system in the point tool category. A platform provides the base for building the missing functions. A three-function system is simply an incomplete execution system. All can be useful: dispatch, collect, track, analyze. The label describes potential. The loop measures presence.